Part 1. Structure and Numerology of the Tarot. Opening. The Tarot is a complete entity. The majority of authors of tarot books are content to describe and analyze the cards one by one without imagining the entire deck as a whole. However, the true study of each arcanum begins with a consistent order of the entire tarot. Every detail, tiny as it may be, begins from the links that connect all 78 cards. To understand these myriad symbols, one needs to have seen the final symbol they all form together, a mandala. According to Carl Gustav Jung, the mandala is a representation of the psyche, whose presence is unknown to us. Round shapes generally symbolize natural integrity, whereas rectangular forms represent the mental realization of this integrity. In Hindu tradition, the mandala, the symbol of the sacred central space, altar and temple, is both an image of the world and the representation of divine power. An image capable of leading the one contemplating it to illumination. In accordance with this concept, I thought of organizing the tarot as if I were building a temple. In all traditions, the temple summarizes the creation of the universe, seen as a divine unit that has exploded into pieces. Osiris, imprisoned in a chest by his jealous enemies and his brother, Set, was cast into the waters of the Nile, mutilated, dismembered, then resuscitated by the breath of Iris. Symbolically, the arcana of the tarot are a chest in which a spiritual treasure has been deposited. The opening of this chest is equivalent to a revelation. The initiatory work consists of gathering together the fragments until the original unit has been restored. You start with a pack of cards. You mix up the arcana and display them flat, which is to say you cut the god into pieces. You interpret them and put them back together in sentences. In a sacred quest, the initiate reader, Isis, the soul, puts the pieces back together. The god is resuscitated, not in any immaterial dimension, but in the material world. A figure, a mandala, is composed with the tarot so that the whole thing can be seen with a single glance. This idea that the cards were not conceived one by one as separate symbols but as parts of a whole did not appear to me all at once. It was a long process fueled by vague intentions, but over the course of years I made discoveries that provided convincing proof that this complete entity, in quotes, the tarot, desired to create union. I organized the cards by placing the even numbers on my left and the odd numbers on my right, because in Eastern traditions, even numbers are considered passive and the odd numbers active, and because the right side is considered active and the left passive, I compared the ornamentation of the Western temples with the Eastern ones. On the facade of Gothic cathedrals, for example, Notre Dame of Paris an androgynous Jesus Christ, standing between an earthly dragon and a heavenly dragon, gives us his blessing. On the porthole to his right, or to our left as spectators, stands the Virgin Mary, femininity, openness, and to his left we see a priest dominating a dragon with his staff, masculinity, activity. Conversely, in Tantric Buddhist temples, the male deities are placed facing our left, the females our right side. The explanation for this is that the Buddha is not a god but a level that every human being, if he or she performs the great spiritual work, can attain. The believer ceases to be a spectator and takes a place between the male and female principles, transformed into a temple. Conversely, Christ is a God, and no believer can become him, only imitate him. Eastern saints are Buddhas. Western saints imitate their God, which is the reason cathedrals behave like mirrors. The right side of the building represents our left side, and the left side our right. The Tarot of Marseille, a Judeo-Christian creation, indicated to us that in the world, XX1, that we should use it like a mirror. The woman is holding the active baton in her left hand and the receptive retort in her right. See page 40. Taking these details and others, which it would take too long to list here, as my guides, I gradually shaped groups of cards that one day finally took the form of a mandala. I obtained a swastika, the symbol of the creative whirlwind around which the hierarchies it creates fans out. This symbol, which obviously indicate a circular movement around the center, the action of divine principle and manifestation, was long considered to be the emblem of Christ. In India, it was made into the emblem of the Buddha because it resembles the wheel of law, Dhammachakra, but also the emblem of Ganesh, God of knowledge. In China, the swastika symbolizes the number 10,000, which is the sum total of beings in manifestation. It is also the original form of Fang. It indicates the four directions of squared space of the earth as a horizontal expansion emanating from the center. In Masonic symbolism, the pole star is depicted as the center of the swastika. In the four arms, the Greek letter gamma, whose shape is that of the square, of which it consists, are the four cardinal positions of the Big Dipper, and around it, the Big Dipper symbolizes a guiding and enlightening center. I should acknowledge that the arcana can be organized into one whole in countless ways. As the tarot is essentially a projective instrument, there is no definitive, unique, perfect form within it. This is consistent with the mandalas drawn by Tibetan monks using different colored sand. They all resemble one another, but are never alike. Our study of the tarot begins with the understanding of this mandala. It is not possible to analyze the parts without understanding the whole. When one knows the whole, each part acquires an overall significance that reveals its ties with all other cards. When one plays an instrument in an orchestra, it resonates with all the others. The tarot is a union of the arcana. When after many years I managed to successfully put it all together in my first consistent version of the mandala, I asked it, "What purpose does this study serve me? What kind of power are you able to give me?" I imagine the tarot answered me, in quotes, "You should acquire only the power of helping others. An art that does not heal is not an art. An art that does not heal is not an art." But what does it mean to heal? Every illness, every problem is the product of a stagnation, whether it be one that is a physical, sexual, emotional, or intellectual. Healing consists of regaining fluidity in one's energies. This concept can be found in Lao Tzu's book, The Tao Te Ching, and in even more precise fashion in the Book of Changes and the I Ching. Could the tarot correspond in some way or another to this kind of philosophy? Knowing that the optical language of the tarot could not be imprisoned within one single verbal explanation, I decided to adopt as my motto the words of the Buddha, "Truth is what is useful," in quotes, by giving the four suits a meaning that I would never dare claim to be in any way unique or definitive, but one that would be the most useful for the therapeutic utilization I sought to give to the arcana. It seemed to me that instead of using the tarot like a crystal ball, making it a tool that enabled exotic seers to penetrate hypothetical futures, I would put it into service for a new form of psychoanalysis. Tarotology. Psychoanalysis. Tarotology. My initial tendency when attempting to organize the cards into a mandala, I was to obtain a symmetrical shape. After many fruitless attempts, I could see the impossibility of such a task. I remembered that during my first trip to Japan, the guide leading me around the ancient imperial palace pointed out that no walls were ever constructed in a straight line and that no windows or doors were divided into symmetrical squares. In Japanese culture, the straight line and symmetry are considered to be demonic. Actually, the study of sacred art shows that it is never symmetrical. The door of the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris, that is located to our left, is wider than the door situated to our right. All symmetrical art is profane, nor is the human body symmetrical. Our right lung has 3 lobes, while our left has 2. The tarot reveals that it is a sacred art because the upper portion of any card is never identical to the lower, nor the left side to the right. There is always a small detail, sometimes very difficult to make out, that breaks the resemblance. For example, the Ten of Pentacles, which at first glance seems perfectly symmetrical, holds in one of the lower corners to our right a pentacle that is different from the rest. It has only 11 petals, whereas the pentacles located in the other 3 corners have 12. See page 307. The flower on the lower end of the central axis has two short, light yellow leaves, whereas the 2 leaves of the flower of the upper end are longer. I think that the creators of the deck intentionally drew minute details to teach us how to see. The vision of our eyes transmit to us changes depending upon our level of awareness. The divine secret is not hidden. It is right in front of us. Whether we see it or not depends upon attention we give to observing the details and establishing ties between them. Once aware that beneath an apparent symmetry, the tarot is forever denying repetition. I began to realize how the minor arcana were arranged in accordance with a law that could be stated as follows. Out of 4 parts, 3 are almost identical, the one is different. And out of 3 that are equal, 2 have more resemblance to each other. In other words, 1 plus 2, then plus 3, plus 4. Examples of this are multiple. Here are but a few. Out of the 4 suits, swords, cups, pentacles, and wands, 3 bear the names of manufactured objects, sword, cup, pentacle, and 1 bears the name of a natural element, wand. Among the 3 first suits, 2 objects resemble each other more. Cup and pentacle stand on a surface. The third is different, a hand holding a sword in the air. The pages of swords, of wands, and of pentacles are wearing hats. The page of cups is bareheaded. In the swords and the wands, the points of the V's are turned toward the center. In the cup, it is turned towards the outside. In addition to the symbol that corresponds to them, the Queen of Wands, cups, and pentacles are lifting an object with their other hand. The Queen of Swords is not. 3 kings are inside a palace. The 4th is in nature. 3 are wearing a crown. The 4th, a hat. 3 of the knights' horses are blue. The 4th is white. And so forth. If we look for examples of this law in different religions, mythologies, or reality, we find, for example, in Christianity 3, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, plus 1, Virgin Mary. Of the first 3, 2 are immaterial, Father and Holy Ghost. The third, Jesus Christ, is embodied. In other words, Father and Holy Ghost plus Jesus Christ plus Virgin Mary. In the 4 Gospels, 3 are similar, Mark, Matthew, and Luke, and 1 is different, John. Of the 3 that are similar, 2 share almost a complete resemblance, Mark and Luke, with the third slightly different, Matthew. In other words, Mark plus Luke plus Matthew, then plus John. The Kabbalah makes a distinction between 4 worlds, 3 immaterial worlds divided into 2 that form the macroposopos, Atzuluth, archetypal, and Bria, creative, and 1 that is microposopos, Yetzirah, formative. This trio feeds the fiancé, Asaya, material. In other words, Atziluth and Bria, then plus Yetzirah, then plus Asiya. The 4 noble truths discovered by Gautama the Buddha, suffering, desire, greed, the middle way. In other words, suffering plus desire plus greed plus the middle way. The 4 castes of ancient India, action in the material world, the Sudras, workers. The Vaisyas, merchants, and Kshatriyas, warriors. Action in the spiritual world, the Brahmins, priests. In other words, Sudras plus Vaisyas plus Kshatriyas plus Brahmins. In the 4 elements, 3 are similar, air, water, fire, and 1 different, earth. Among the three that are similar, two or more so, air and fire, and one is different, water. In other words, air plus fire plus water, then plus earth. On the human face, the ears, eyes, and nostrils are double, whereas the mouth is single. The eyes and ears are separated, while the nostrils combine into one nose. In other words, ears, eyes, nostrils, then mouth. Thanks to this formula, we can organize the four temperaments of the body: nerves, lymph, blood, and bile. The four trios of the zodiac: Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Then Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Then Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. Then Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. The four phases of alchemy, the work at the yellow stage, Citrinitas, the work at the red stage, Rubedo, the work at the white stage, Albedo, and the work at the black stage, Negredo. The four states of matter: gas, liquid, solid, and plasma, and so on and so forth. Finally, by studying several alchemical engravings in the Rosary of the Philosophers, I found confirmation for the Tarot Mandala.